Friends, I can explain Megyn Kelly. I can explain Tucker Carlson and Matt Walsh. I understand it's frustrating. Look, I'm still firmly behind the president. And I know where they're coming from. I understand why they're doing it. I'll explain. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Good to be here with you all. Sam at what'srightshow.com is the email. At What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. I have the luxury, and it really is a luxury, to be able to do this program and not worry about the clicks. I don't have to worry about sponsors. I don't have to worry about eyeballs. I don't have to gin up a controversy to have people watch or listen. I don't have to do any of that. Megyn Kelly has to keep her relevance. And so this is why, she came out, and I'll play the clip. I'm going to play the clip because it's important to see it. But she's come out, against this. Basically, why are we fighting Israel's war? Why are U.S. soldiers dying for Israel? This is such a sad thing to say for someone as intelligent as Megyn is. And the short answer is this. Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, and others truly believe that the only way that they can maintain their ratings, their clicks, their viewers, their followers, you, conservative audience, listeners, have to be fed this, nativist and quite frankly, at times deeply anti-Semitic position about this, all this just being done with little Jewish puppeteers behind the scenes, little, Israeli donors pushing this agenda. And actually, it's not only an attack on you. It's also an attack on Trump. Before there was a Miriam Adelson, before there was a Mark Levin, Donald Trump, as a young man, was talking this way about Iran, specifically about the Ayatollahs. If anything, Trump has been consistent his entire life on this issue. And who the hell is Matt Walsh anyway, or Megyn Kelly, compared to a guy like Donald Trump? These people are little chihuahuas, nipping at the ankles of greatness. That's the high level thought here is, and so that's where you get statements like this. This is exactly where it comes from.
Look, there are massive divisions over what we've done here, and people are going to change their minds over the coming days and weeks, one way or the other. But my own feeling is no one should have to die for a foreign country. I don't think those 4 service members died for the United States. I think they died for Iran or for Israel. I think I understand how this helps Iran perfectly well. I get it. I hope. Long term, we'll see. But they seem rather jubilant. 80% of the country does not support the Ayatollah. He was a terrible, terrible man. No one's crying that he's dead. No normal person. But our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel. It's to look out for us. And this feels very much to me like it is clearly Israel's war. Mark Levin wanted it. It's his war. Ben Shapiro, Lindsey Graham, Miriam Adelson. That's obvious.
Well, except for Lindsey, all Jews. The Jews wanted this. It's a Jewish war. Megyn Kelly, is she for real? This is, one of the things, let's say this, right? This is Israel derangement syndrome. Plain and absolute, that's what it is. Imagine if every time we made a move against China, these people would get on air and they would get on their little shows and they would say, oh, we're being controlled by Japan or South Korea. I want our government to think in terms of long-term strategy. That's what I want to see. As I said yesterday, and by the way, people are now catching on, and I've seen more of it over the last 24 hours, understanding that we are doing everything here to box China in. That our real geopolitical foe, the country that has, tech, has a military, frankly, most of it because they've stolen it from us. They have, global ambitions. They are a true rival and an evil, evil country. Don't think for a minute that the life that you have in your town, in your city, is not something that the Chi-Coms want to take from you. And if you've listened to me for a while, you know I'm feel very strongly about this. Now, there are China apologists, too, the same way there are Iran apologists. But back to the topic. The first step was Maduro. Why? Bunch of Chinese oil, and the Chinese have to import their hydrocarbons. They don't have domestic oil production. So the first thing we did is we snatched Maduro and we took their oil. I'm willing to be kind of, vulgar and conclusive about it. I mean, we took their oil. We did it. And in so doing, we cut off China from a chunk of their oil supply, anywhere from 15 to 25%. I've seen different figures. How much oil of China's total each year do they get from Iran? It's a big number. Some estimate around 30, 35%. So we've literally, conservatively, let's say, chopped off China from 30 to 50% of their oil supply. This is enormous. And we went just to give you an idea, because this is what the purpose is. The regime change in Iran is there to box in China. Everything else, I would also add that no serious person can make the kind of arguments that Matt Walsh is making about the nuclear program, which is, I thought we destroyed it. I thought we destroyed Natanz. I thought we did that last year. You can't speak in circles. You're saying, we have to go in and we have to destroy their nuclear ambitions. They're building new sites. They told our negotiators, folks, and Steve Witkoff just made a stunning admission about this, that the Iranian side came in and basically said, yeah, we have enough material for 11 bombs. And that was their opening position. Now, there's nothing you're going to do about that. So where do we go from here? You want to wait until they have ICBMs capable of reaching New York, capable of reaching Los Angeles, Las Vegas? You want to wait for that? Are we? I don't know. We got to be America first. That is the most dumb position. And Megyn Kelly is too smart to actually believe that. And this is my point. Because I know that, the only conceivable reason for why she and others are putting this kind of slop forward is they think you're too stupid to be able to understand more nuance about geopolitical strength, strategy, and long-term security for the United States of America. Security that you and your family and me and my family, at times, admittedly, we take it for granted. My goodness. Well, yes, look, you want to go back. It all, by the way, this all got kicked off because Marco Rubio said this. This is where it came from.
I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond and respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true because, in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
I played the whole long clip here so that you understand and can listen to the full explanation. And from this, that a lot of people, even some that I respect, gleaned that we did this because Israel made us. That's what they're hearing here. And it's just complete and total garbage. Friends, I mentioned that Steve Witkoff, our envoy chief negotiator with the Iranian side during a bunch of these meetings, in his first meeting with the Iranians, with the representatives of the regime now under attack, he said this happened right there at the table sitting down.
In that first meeting, both the Iranian negotiators said to us directly, with no shame, that they controlled 460 kilograms of 60%, and they're aware that that could make 11 nuclear bombs, and that was the beginning of their negotiating stance. So they were proud of it. They were proud that they had evaded all sorts of oversight protocols to get to a place where they could deliver 11 nuclear bombs.
We are now 100% certain that these mullahs in Iran cannot be trusted. You can't use diplomacy. And then I guess you've got to figure out, do they have nuclear ambition and do they hate us? And if you go through the history, right, if you go through the entire, track record that Iran has, the idea of them having both continental ballistic missile capability, delivery vehicles for a nuclear warhead, combined with a functioning nuclear weapon, this to me is a disaster. It's absolute disaster. Now, we've already played. Listen, we played in military strategy, you often can do things just once. So our GBU 57 card, the massive, penetrator, the MOP, right? Massive ordnance penetrator that we dropped in June, we did it once. And the next Iranian facility was being built at a place called Pickaxe Mountain. And you can't take it out from the air. I mean, it's just deep inside. I think those mountains are granite. I mean, you're not getting through it. The Iranians realized the limits of the protection that Natanz had. And you combine that with the fact that now the regime is at its absolute weakest. Its proxy network, Hamas and Hezbollah, destroyed. The Houthis backed into some kind of a corner. They're not very well funded. So there you go. I mean, this just was a perfect opportunity. And Marco Rubio, I probably wouldn't have said what he said, Because I think another huge reason of the why now is because there was a perfect window of opportunity. You had all the guys in a room having breakfast together. And that's what you try to do in a decapitation strike. And regardless of what the final death count is, if Ahmadinejad is alive or not, all these different players, whether they're alive or not, the indiscriminate bombing of Oman, coupled with and Bahrain and other Arab countries in particular, though Oman, that has previously hosted talks and served as a diplomatic intermediary with Iran and the Iranian regime, coupled with then the Iranian minister going on air. I played the clip yesterday saying, well, I'm really sorry. I've been on the phone with a few countries. We didn't mean to do it. There's a little bit of a disconnect here. Tells me that the Saturday morning attack was successful. That it's thrown the government into a bit of a conundrum. And then we have a plausible transition government. The Shah's son, I've spoken about him here many times before, Reza Pahlavi, living in exile, is a Western guy, and he has a following. So there you go. And I'll add on top of it, for the first time in my lifetime, we have an actual, honest-to-goodness alliance that we've built, where we've brought Israel together with countries, with Arab countries, together with us, and recognizing that the threat to the region, which could well envelop the rest of the world and create opportunities for China, our real adversary, can be eliminated. This is, I don't, folks, if I have just a binary choice, do it or not do it, I'm 1,000% behind doing it. It's Trump, by the way, Trump consistent about this for years. Here he is. This is in 1980. Trump's a young guy at this point. And he's talking to Rona Barrett on NBC. This is October of 1980. And this is what was this, month before the election. So people are talking at this point that the sort of what's going on in the country is people are deciding to keep Jimmy Carter, a complete effete loser a la Joe Biden, or try, some firm talking, tough talker, right? Ronald Reagan. And here is what Trump said. This is something Megyn Kelly will never mention. She'll never bring up Trump and slam Trump. She knows she'd lose her followers if she did that.
When you get the respect of the other countries, then the other countries tend to do a little bit as you do, and you can create the right attitudes. The Iranian situation is a case in point. That they hold our hostages is just absolutely and totally ridiculous. That this country sits back and allows a country such as Iran to hold our hostages, to my way of thinking, is a horror. And I don't think they'd do it with other countries. I honestly don't think they'd do it with other countries.
Obviously, you're advocating that we should have gone in there with troops, etc., and brought our boys out.
I absolutely feel that, yes. I don't think there's any question, and there's no question in my mind. I think right now would be an oil-rich nation, and I believe that we should have done it, and I'm very disappointed that we didn't do it, and I don't think anybody would have held us in abeyance. I don't think anybody would have been angry with us, and we had every right to do it at the time. I think we've lost the opportunity.
I'm telling you, this is Trump 46 years ago. And if you listen to Matt Walsh, you almost like Trump woke up one morning and decided to do something completely out of character. That he was co-opted by the Jews. I mean, that's what this sounds like, right? And it's just so low brow, low IQ thinking. It boils my blood. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, I'll be right back. As always, this hour of the program brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Quick word about Sam and Ash Injury Law. Don't do it alone. Don't go at it alone. You get hurt. You think you're going to call the insurance company, talk to them nicely, write them a strongly worded letter. All of this, by the way, is the functional equivalent of Biden dealing with Iran. They're going to smile at you. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. They'll have no intention of taking care of you according to the law and according to their obligation. It's a matter of right and wrong. And this, I'll be honest with you, this is the fundamental problem most of the time for conservatives, because we're good people. We want to go to folks palms up. We're not looking for a lottery win when it comes to an accident, an injury case. And so we want to just do the right thing and talk to our broker, talk to the adjuster. Don't do it, folks. You'll end up thousands of dollars upside down. And worse yet, you're going to lose hours and hours and hours of your life dealing with these clowns. At Sam and Ash Injury Law, we take this burden off of you. We handle the case. We get you taken care of. You can live your life. You can go to work. You can be with your family. We work in the background and deliver a result. It doesn't cost you any money up front. Fees come at the end of the case. And if there's no recovery, there's no fee. It's right in the contract. Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash, as I always tell you, because you deserve what's right. Okay, folks. By the way, great news out of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Fantastic, fantastic news. All those California schools that were basically lying to parents, hiding that their child was being groomed to become a transgender. This is the Supreme Court has sided with the parents in California. It prohibits, a new ruling prohibits schools in California from, quote, misleading parents about their children's gender presentation. Hey, look at this. Quote, gender dysphoria is a condition that has an important bearing on a child's mental health. Yeah, of course. But when a child exhibits symptoms of gender dysphoria at school, California's policies conceal that information from parents and facilitate a degree of gender transitioning during school hours. These policies likely violate parents' rights to direct the upbringing and education of their children. Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented. So this is great. By the way, also the Supreme Court allowed Republicans to request a pause from the redraw of the New York congressional map. So interesting development. By the way, another development here to touch on. There's a big poll out. Mediaite reported this. Let's see. The poll, Republicans are now in a dead heat with the Democrats going into the midterms. So this is a Harvard poll, a CAPS, suggesting that the Republicans have increased their support, and support for Democrats has gone down. The situation's fluid. We're in the game. And this is why I'm so irked. Conservatives here, we are experts. I mean, we are absolute experts at shooting ourselves in the foot when we're a second ahead. One of the reasons, of course, is because we're driven to get clicks. People like Matt Walsh and Megyn Kelly, they've got to have their shows be successful. And so, I think many of them think that they would lose audience if they got up there and said, you know what, actually, Trump might be right on this. Trump might be right. Well, I mean, it's okay. Well, here was the Matt Walsh blog tweet. I can't stand the gaslighting, guys. I really can't. Conservatives are now running around saying Iran has been waging war on us for 47 years. Okay, then why didn't any of you call for an attack on Iran at any point until now? Can I speak for myself here? Yeah, you can go through all my public pronouncements on this. I thought giving Iran billions of dollars by Barack Hussein Obama was a terrible idea, okay? I have always been consistent that appeasing the Islamo-fascist regime of Iran is a problem, okay? 2, you are right in the sense, if somebody's going to say, well, Sam, there's this one statement of you saying war with Iran's not a good idea. Yeah, I didn't want Biden to prosecute that war. And in retrospect, even the people around George W. Bush weren't the best at executing their version of conflict. I don't want to see a ground war, okay? I don't want to see that. But if we can rain hell on the mullahs of Iran from the sky, if we can destroy or significantly degrade their weapon-making capability by dropping, these giant bombs, these ordnance penetrating bombs that are bunker buster bombs, we can do this. That's great. That's a win. But I mean, and it's so funny because John Podhoretz of Commentary responded to Matt Walsh, you illiterate moron. Commentary has been calling for this for 19 years. Why don't you ask your boss? You're not being gaslit. You're embarrassing yourself with this idiocy. Jared Chambers wrote, I really like Matt. I really do. He often makes good points, but he's just so millennial. He acts like history started when he was born and that anything he didn't pay attention to just didn't happen. Ultimate me generation. Called it navel gazing, etc. This is so great. Look. What is it to be conservative? Because I'll tell you this, and I'll stick by this. What we are witnessing in the second Trump term is the first time we have real, unapologetic, conservative war fighting. And I had this conversation. I didn't tell you this because I'm still here in Europe for the balance of the week. And I had this a great conversation with a Czech businessman that is a good friend of mine, who sat down. Well, of course, everybody, when they meet the American, they want to talk about politics and Trump, and usually I just have to sort of grind my teeth a little bit and and then respond carefully but firmly and give them my position, and things get awkward. But not here. Boy, this guy came out and goes, I love this Trump. Finally, some guy's got some balls. We have fought every war, and I'll add in particular the great disappointment of George W. Bush in Iraq and Afghanistan with a degree of apologetics. There was always a reticence, right? 9/11 happened. The first thing Bush did, get up and go, let's not be Islamophobic, right? Let's not say that the enemy that just attacked us and killed 3,000 people on our soil and took down 2 iconic buildings in New York and hijacked planes, that they were motivated by Islam. I mean, this is radical Islam, and that we are friends with the people in the mosque. He went out of his way to do this. And that was the brain worm that Republicans had pre-Trump. Republicans were infected by this kind of compassionate conservatism. Remember that term, compassionate conservatism? Because they bought into the criticism from the other side. You want to talk about gaslighting? Matt Walsh, my answer to you is that that conservatism for most of my adult life pre-Donald Trump was entirely supported by and infected by a sense of needing to, as conservatives, respond to the allegation that we're heartless bastards. That's very reductive. I get it, but just hear me out. And we fought wars this way. We fought wars in a politically correct way. What did Trump do when he comes into office? Take two. He comes in, he renames the Department of Defense to the Department of War. We are war fighters, bitches. It's on like Donkey Kong. Do not cry. We are lethal. We are killers. He puts in Raising Cane. This is, and trust me, if you talk to Washington, D.C. people, they are having conniption fits about this. We can't do this. You can't call it the Department of War. What are we, aggressors? We're peacekeepers. We're regime change, freedom first. What happened did we forget what happened in Venezuela? Weren't we predicting World War III a few months ago in Venezuela? What did Trump do? And it wasn't even regime. Literally plucked Maduro out in his pajamas. Him and his wife, who was also involved in the regime and a huge Chavez person, grabbed them both, locked them up in New York. The next communist up took control, and Trump basically, we told her, hey, we'll work with you, whatever, but here are our conditions. It's a take it or leave it offer. Well, she took it for now. And you're not hearing any peeps about this. You're not hearing any sadness about this. You're not hearing anybody say anything about it. And I told this to you yesterday. It still is true today. I don't know if Pahlavi, the son of the Shah, I don't know if Pahlavi, the Shah's son, comes in and takes control. I think Trump would be perfectly fine having, a former hardliner take a soft stance on America and change things internally, and that would work just as well for us. They're ideology agnostic. It's all about outcome. And we are, and this is, to me, such a critical conservative position, to finally be outcome oriented. Then the outcome is clearly based on American interests. Boxing in China, removing terror threats. Done. End of story. Now, if it changes, I'll criticize Trump if I need to. But it's everything else here just to me is silly. Absolutely silly. Well, right. Well, okay. Here, I'll tell you what the updates are right now. See, so you think there's been some development. Okay. Well, here's the updates. The U.S. now has confirmed, the kill for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Apparently, his wife as well was killed. A number of other high-ranking officials were eliminated. The retaliatory attacks have escalated. We are at 6 U.S. service members killed so far. Kuwait accidentally downed 3 U.S. fighter jets. This is a fog of war situation. 11 people have been killed in Israel, and deaths have been reported in the UAE and the Emirates, Kuwait, and Bahrain. Now, Hezbollah, and these are the people that got, taken out with the pagers, they're still around. They're in Lebanon, a country, by the way, that has for years, a former ally of the U.S., for years been destabilized, infiltrated, and otherwise degraded and destroyed by the Iranian menace. Hezbollah there has fired some missiles into Israel. Trump has come out and said for his part that the operation is expected to last 4 or 5 weeks. But per Trump's usual way of speaking, he said this could last much longer. Pete Hegseth said today that the war would not be endless, and that the U.S. goal is not regime change. So that's an interesting development. And but then Marco Rubio said also that Trump won't rule out anything. Well, Iran, government is still there. But I'm reviewing constantly new footage that's coming out, and last 24 hours, there have been some absolutely devastating strikes on downtown Tehran that have been earth-shaking. So it seems to be, deep, penetrating ordinances that are hitting bunkers, government sites, and there it is. Now, this is the way to do it. I'm not seeing anything here that is causing me great consternation. Thomas Sowell, when we talked about the left and the right, describing the differences between the two sides, that it's a unconstrained versus constrained view of the world. This is from his book, A Conflict of Visions, 1987. The left is unconstrained. Okay? The left deals in fantasies, in counterfactual arguments. They reject anything that deviates from their universe, from leftopia. And they value intentions over outcomes. Now, the right, we're constrained. We are constrained by, first of all, reality. How many times do I tell you this on this program? I'm not the mayor of Fantasyland. Okay? We deal in realities. We have constraints. We have trade-offs. We're okay making incremental improvements. We value the outcome of things. Now, look at how, for example, speaking of these realities and speaking of trade-offs, look at how Trump has approached peace in the Middle East. I'll give this as if you think that this is a foolish foray into foreign policy and into foreign intervention for Trump. Let me ask you this. Do you think it's good for us to have peace in the Middle East? Is that a good outcome for you and me? Because I think it is. And if you're willing to accept the premise that it is a good outcome, then the next step has to be, how do we achieve that? You'll remember that Biden famously, as soon as he became president, basically turned his, he had a typical leftist thing. He had a problem with Saudi Arabia because of the Khashoggi murder. He gave the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman a fist bump. That was rude. And of course, the favor was returned when Saudi Arabia raised the price of oil and created all sorts of problems for us. Now, Trump gets into office, and his objective is to make trade, not war. If you listen to everything and follow everything that Trump is doing, it's all about the economic benefit for our country. So he comes in, I'll talk to the Saudis, I'll talk to whoever. Hell, Trump sat down with Rocket Man. Remember this? In his first term, this is who he is. It doesn't matter ideologically that Rocket Man is a communist. It doesn't matter to our interest. It matters to me personally, right? That he's a murdering thug. But what do we need for American interest? We want to become the dominant world superpower. I don't want to give, $200,000 a year for circumcisions in Zimbabwe. That's the leftist view of foreign policy. But you don't know about it until Doge comes along. But it exists, and it's stupid. Instead, I want us to be the most feared and the most respected country in the world. I want people to listen to when our president speaks. We didn't have that 4 years ago, and we didn't have that under Obama either. And we hardly had it under Bush because he sent us into, in Iraq, an absolute boondoggle. So there it is. The trade-offs. There's trade-offs with everything, right? And for Trump, the trade-offs here, I think a first part I clearly see from the response were political, but the rewards were huge. And you'll see this is why Trump didn't rush into it. That's another very important point. You know, all the critics are like, well, he's doing Israel's bidding. He's a Miriam Adelson, stooge, according to Megyn Kelly. It's a silly take because Trump actually was quite restrained. And there are, and I know this for a fact, there have been times that Trump in the last year, particularly in Gaza, has been very strong and firm and directive to Benjamin Netanyahu. Well, to the extent that it pissed a lot of people off on our side. Trust me, there's some conversation. You would not have wanted to be Bibi Netanyahu on the other end of a phone call with Trump, as Trump was trying to hammer out a peace deal with Hamas. So these are all truths that we can't ignore, all right? And we got to remember what it means to be conservative, and it means we have to be adults, and we have to understand that there is a reality out there, and that the world is not Fantasyland. All right, Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Great to be with you as always. I'll be back tomorrow. No fear.